Theo had chosen a charming, vibrant restaurant in the heart of Paris for the date. The restaurant was bustling with lively chatter, and the atmosphere was inviting and cozy. The soft glow of fairy lights illuminated the outdoor area where he'd reserved a table for the perfect evening. As Theo led you to the table, his hand gently touching the small of your back, you couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement in your chest at the sight. He held your chair out for you, pulling it back and gesturing for you to sit. Theo chuckled softly as you commented on the setting, his ego boosted by your reaction. He took a seat across from you, his gaze fixed on your face. "Only the best for you, sweetheart," he replied. "I wanted to make this evening special."
The waiter approached the table with a friendly smile, carrying 2 leather-bound menus in his hand. He placed one in front of you and another in front of Theo, his gaze flickering between the two of you. "Good evening," he greeted warmly. "Here are the menus. Please take your time with the orders." The waiter turned his attention to Theo, an expectant smile on his face. "And for drinks, monsieur? The usual?" he inquired politely.
Theo's smirk widened as he responded to the waiter, his gaze shifting towards you. "Not tonight. Bring us something special, something she'll remember when she thinks of Paris."
The waiter nodded, understanding Theo's request. He smiled warmly, acknowledging the significance of the moment. "Of course, monsieur," the waiter said, his tone courteous. "I'll be back shortly with something special."
Theo chuckled softly, observing your bewildered expression as you perused the menu. He found your cluelessness endearing and couldn't help but tease you a bit. "Don't worry, sweetheart," he reassured. "I'll help you navigate the fancy dishes." Theo's gaze flickered over the menu, assessing the available options. He glanced up at you with a slight smirk, raising an eyebrow as he posed the question. "How does it sound, sweetheart? Steak that melts in your mouth, or a fresh catch of Mediterranean seafood?" As you expressed your preference for seafood, Theo's focus on the menu wavered for a moment. He found himself momentarily distracted, his gaze fixated on you. He let out a soft sigh, lost in his thoughts as he took in your radiant appearance. The menu forgotten, he couldn't help but admire you, his expression momentarily soft and absent-minded. "You look beautiful," he murmured, the words slipping out before he could censor them. Theo's gaze lingered on you for a moment longer, his heart skipping a beat at the sight of your flushed cheeks. He mentally shook himself, bringing his focus back to the task at hand. "Right," he began, a hint of a smirk on his lips. "How about we start with some lobster, mussels, scallops, and let's see, how do you feel about raw oysters?" "Never had oysters before, huh?" He smirked, his tone filled with amusement. "Well, sweetheart, you're in for a treat then." The waiter approached the table, gracefully placing a bottle of wine on the tabletop. As he leaned down, he whispered something in Theo's ear, causing a smirk to form on the latter's face. Theo nodded slightly in response, his gaze flickering to the bottle of wine before he replied to the waiter with a satisfied tone. "This is perfect. Leave the bottle," he instructed, his attention returning to you.
The waiter nodded in acknowledgement, gracefully pouring a generous serving of the expensive wine into the glasses. He finished the task with efficiency, his movements practiced and effortless. "Ready to order, monsieur?" he inquired, his French accent adding a touch of refinement to his words.
Theo's gaze flicked up to meet the waiter's, his tone smooth and confident as he effortlessly ordered in flawless French. "Pour nous ce soir, 12 huîtres fraîches, un homard thermidor de Saint-Jacques à la crème, des moules marinières, et ajoutez une douzaine d'huîtres pour elle avec une baguette chaude." Theo couldn't help but notice the subtle widening of your eyes, amusement flickering in his own gaze. He knew you were caught off guard by his fluent French, and a small smirk played on his lips.
The waiter nodded in acknowledgement, a polite smile on his face. Taking note of Theo's order, he bowed slightly. Parfait, monsieur.
Theo's smirk widened as you complimented him, his ego boosted by your words. He leaned back in his chair, a proud glint in his eyes. Fluent, yes. Necessary when doing business, and occasionally for fun. Il faut savoir parler la langue du luxe. He glanced at the glass of wine, then back at you, his gaze roaming over your features. Un vin magnifique pour une femme magnifique, he murmured with a hint of teasing, his eyes locked on yours. Theo chuckled softly, thoroughly enjoying his own words. He lifted his own glass of wine, twirling it between his fingers, as he repeated the sentiment. A magnificent wine for a magnificent woman, he echoed. His gaze met yours as he clinked his glass against yours, a smirk playing at the corner of his lips. Cheers, darling, he murmured, his voice laced with a soft hint of affection. The wine, as it found its way onto your tongue, revealed itself to be an exquisite delicacy. Its taste was like a symphony of flavors, each sip unraveling a layer of complexity and smoothness that teased your palate. It was as if the wine itself had been crafted with finesse, its bouquet carrying whispers of the finest grapes, and the skillful hands of the winemaker. The rich fruity notes melded seamlessly, creating a harmonious blend that intoxicated your senses with every delicate sip. Theo couldn't help but bask in your enjoyment of the wine, his eyes sparkling with satisfaction. I knew you'd like it. Theo smiled, taking a languid sip of the wine before nodding in agreement. His gaze lingered on you as he replied. France certainly does have its fair share of fine things, he affirmed, his tone carrying a hint of pride. The wine, the food, the fashion, it's all a part of the allure, darling. Theo observed you, his gaze softening as he took in the sight of you savoring the moment, the ambience of the restaurant adding a touch of magic to the surroundings. The soft lighting created a charming atmosphere, casting a warm glow across the room, and the hushed voices of the other diners lent a sense of intimacy to the scene. Theo found himself captivated, his gaze never leaving your face as he quietly sipped his wine.
As the waiter returned to the table, he gracefully placed an array of beautifully plated dishes before you, each one a work of culinary art. There was a perfectly cooked lobster accompanied by melted butter, a succulent serving of fresh scallops, and the mussels were served with a delectable sauce. Alongside these savory delights was the mouth-watering dish of raw oysters and a fresh baguette. The waiter stood respectfully aside, waiting for your reactions.
Theo smiled, his gaze shifting from the feast before you to your expression of awe. He nodded in appreciation at the waiter. A silent thank you that conveyed more than words. Looks good, sweetheart, he said, his voice low and warm. Dig in and let's indulge. Together, you shared the delectable lobster, mussels, and scallops, each bite a revelation of taste and texture. The lobster meat was succulent, its sweet, butter-soaked goodness melting in your mouth. The mussels were perfectly cooked, their briny, salty flavor bursting with each bite. The scallops were seared to perfection, their delicate yet firm texture complemented by the subtle sweetness of the ocean. Between bites, Theo observed you with a sense of satisfaction, his gaze occasionally flitting to his own plate before returning to your face with a glimmer of affection. Theo chuckled softly, the sight of your radiant smile bringing a warmth to his heart. I take it you're enjoying the feast, he inquired, his gaze flickering over the almost empty plates in front of you. Theo's lips curled into a warm smile, his gaze filled with genuine satisfaction. "I have to agree, sweetheart," he replied, the words spilling from his mouth like a secret shared only between the two of you. "It's absolutely delicious." As you continued to enjoy the array of seafood before you, Theo noticed that you had yet to try the raw oysters. A sly smirk played on his lips, unable to resist the idea of watching you experience something new. "You know," he began, his voice soft and teasing, "you haven't tried the oysters yet." Theo watched as you carefully held the oyster in your hand, your hesitation evident. He chuckled softly before proceeding to show you the correct way to eat the delicacy. "Here, I'll show you." He picked up an oyster and demonstrated by sliding it off the shell and placing it gently into his mouth. "See? Just like that. And then, if you like, you can add a touch of lemon, but I think it's already perfect as it is." Theo noticed your hesitation, a small crease appearing on his forehead as he observed your uncertain gaze. He leaned forward slightly, his voice gentle but reassuring, as if sensing your apprehension. "Don't worry, sweetheart. It's easy," he encouraged, his tone soft and soothing. "Just give it a try. You might be pleasantly surprised." Theo's gaze softened, a warm smile spreading across his face at your words. There was a hint of smugness in his eyes as he leaned back in his chair, satisfied with your response. "I knew you would, sweetheart," he replied, his tone tinged with playful confidence. "It takes a bit of an adventurous palate to appreciate it, but once you get a taste..." Theo's demeanor remained relaxed as he took a sip of the exquisite wine, savoring the taste on his tongue. He observed you momentarily before returning his attention to his own plate. The two of you fell into a comfortable silence, a sense of contentment enveloping the atmosphere as you both enjoyed your time together. The restaurant's ambiance seemed to blend with the delicious food, creating a moment of tranquility and indulgence. From time to time, Theo's gaze would flicker back to your face, his expression soft and admiring. As the dinner continued, Theo couldn't help but notice the subtle changes in your demeanor. The tension in your shoulders seemed to ease, and a soft smile played on your lips. The once nervous expression had melted away, replaced by a sense of contentment. Theo found himself captivated by this transformation, his gaze lingering longer on your face whenever he thought you weren't looking. He took another sip of his wine, the rich flavor still lingering on his tongue as he observed you, silently admiring your grace. Theo's thoughts lingered as he continued to watch you, his expression growing pensive as the question danced in his mind. The thought of letting you go, of releasing you from this captivity, weighed heavily on him. "What am I going to do with her?" he pondered silently, his gaze locked on your face. "Should I let her go once we return home? Would she even want to return to her normal life after everything that's happened?" Theo's thoughts were interrupted as he noticed you finishing off the remaining oysters on your plate, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. His gaze softened, his earlier internal conflict momentarily forgotten as he watched you relish in the delicacy. "You really do enjoy the oysters, don't you?" he remarked, the question tinged with a hint of affection. He couldn't help but find your enjoyment endearing, his gaze lingering on your satisfied expression. The sight of you savoring the wine made his heart skip a beat, the affection he felt for you growing with each passing moment. "You have a good palate, darling," he remarked, his tone playful yet tinged with sincerity. His eyes never left yours as he continued, "I have a feeling you would enjoy anything I feed you." With a sly smile, Theo leaned back in his chair and asked, "So, darling, any room left for dessert?" As he posed the question, he watched your expression intently, awaiting your response. Theo chuckled softly at your quick dismissal, a hint of amusement glinting in his eyes. "Really? You're sure there's no room left?" he teased, his expression holding a touch of skepticism. "Not even for a little bit of something sweet?" Theo's smirk widened, a playful glint in his eyes as he observed your adamant refusal. "Too full, huh? I suppose I can understand that. You did devour quite a lot of seafood." He leaned back in his seat with a chuckle, amused by your fullness. With a subtle gesture, Theo signaled for the waiter, who swiftly caught his attention.
The waiter nodded in acknowledgement, understanding the unspoken signal. Moments later, the waiter approached the table, the bill held in hand. "Will that be all, monsieur?" the waiter asked politely.
Theo nodded, a gracious smile on his lips. "Yes, that will be all," he replied, his glance shifting towards the bill in the waiter's hand. With a swift motion, Theo reached into his pocket and pulled out his black card, the sleek material glinting under the restaurant's ambient lighting. He handed the card to the waiter, his expression nonchalant, as if the act were as commonplace as checking the time.
The waiter accepted the card, his demeanor professional and efficient. As he glanced back at Theo, he offered a polite reminder. "I'll return shortly with your card, sir. Please don't forget to take the rest of the wine with you."
Theo nodded in acknowledgement, his attention briefly returning to the bottle of wine. A small smile played on his lips as he responded, "Of course. I'll make sure to take it with us." Theo rose from his seat, his movements smooth and graceful. He walked around the table, closing the distance between you and himself. With a gentlemanly gesture, he extended his hand towards your chair. "After you, darling," he murmured, his voice soft and inviting as he waited for you to stand. As you stood, Theo waited patiently, his hand held out, palm facing up. It was a subtle gesture, an invitation for you to take his hand. He watched you expectantly, waiting to see if you would acquiesce to his unspoken offer. A small smile tugged at the corners of Theo's lips as you took his hand in yours. He gently closed his fingers around your hand, securing your grip. He took a moment to admire the sight, your hand intertwined with his. A wave of affection washed over him, and his gaze softened. Without missing a beat, without breaking the moment, Theo lifted your hand to his lips, tenderly placing a kiss on the back of your knuckles. His gaze remained fixed on yours, his eyes locking with yours as he pressed his warm lips to your skin, the gesture both intimate and possessive. As Theo lowered your hand back down, his touch lingering for a moment longer than necessary, he looked at you with a soft, tender gaze. His lips curled into a warm smile as he replied, his words carrying a note of satisfaction. "I had a wonderful time, darling. Did you?" he inquired, his voice laced with genuine affection. Theo's smile widened at your agreement, his eyes gleaming with contentment. He gave your hand a gentle squeeze, his touch conveying the silent communication of desire and affection.
Just then, the waiter returned, holding Theo's black card and the receipt. "Your card, monsieur," the waiter announced, his tone polite.
"Thank you," Theo replied, taking the items from the waiter's hand with a gracious nod. He tucked the card back into his pocket and quickly glanced at the receipt, seeming satisfied with the amount. Theo caught your subtle attempt to sneak a peek at the receipt. His smirk widened into a sly grin as he noticed your eager curiosity. Theo turned the receipt towards you, revealing the total amount in 6 figures. "Take a look, darling." Theo chuckled softly as he watched your eyes widen at the amount on the receipt, his gaze gleaming with satisfaction. "As I said," he echoed, his voice taking on a proud tone, "the finest wine in all of Paris, un vin magnifique pour une femme magnifique." A magnificent wine for a magnificent woman.